Welcome to All Bodies on Bikes, the podcast, where all bodies are good bodies, all bikes are good bikes, and all rides should be celebrated.
All Bodies on Bikes is a movement to create and foster a size-inclusive bike community. So join your hosts, I'm Maggie.
And I'm Marley.
As we explore the complexities of the biking world, help us break down barriers and create the world that we want to see. And don't forget that all bodies really means all bodies, not just larger bodies, but bodies of all sizes, ages, races, abilities, genders, sexualities, and beyond.
Come along for the ride. All right, Maggie, we are here for another week. I think this is our third episode in a row about Unbound, which
Yes.
I feel kind of bad about, especially if you're not into gravel cycling. But I mean, as you'll hear, Unbound is just kind of what brought us this story, but it's definitely not all that this next story is all about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So on the show today, we've got a tandem team that did Unbound together. We have Tyler and Tim, and you'll hear from both of them, both absolutely outstanding gentlemen.
Yes.
But let me tell you about Tim, and then Maggie's going to tell you about Tyler, and then we're just going to dive right into the show.
Get into it.
So Mr. Timothy Hornik is a retired Army officer, licensed social worker, and a certified assistive technology specialist championing, that's a hard word to say.
That is.
Who champions veteran causes for 13 years.
Work smarter, not harder.
He is the Blinded Veterans Association Chief of Staff, overseeing educational and volunteer programs, board of directors and membership relations, and partnerships with the Department of Veterans Affairs Blind Rehab Services and Section 508 programs. Basically, Tim is the shit, and he's getting things done for other blinded veterans.
Yes.
Unbound 2023 marks Tim's third completion over 5 attempts and his 5th year hosting cyclists with disabilities and veterans compete at Unbound. Through these roles, Tim advocates and empowers individuals with disabilities and their support networks to forge new pathways in life.
And his captain at Unbound this year is Tyler Epstein. And Tyler is a high school teacher and coach. He has been cycling since 2012, and he is absolutely obsessed with it, which you can hear anytime he's talking about bikes. He rides road, mountain, and gravel, and he has a YouTube channel called Ty's Rides, where he shares his cycling experiences kind of from like a first person point of view, I'm understanding, which sounds like a great way to know how cool cycling is. And he acknowledges a lot that cycling has absolutely changed his life.
Yeah. And these guys have such a cool story. I found out about Ty from YouTube. We met at the Rule of 3 race, and then I texted him while we were Unbound to see, because I knew he was going to be there, and it turns out he was in the dorm room like 4 floors above me. So he was like, stop on by and say hi, and I did, and that's when I found out that him and Tim were riding on this tandem together. As you'll hear, they had only ridden together a couple of times before this, had never done anything like this before, and so definitely a true adventure and a really, really good story. So we hope you guys enjoy this one. And remember to like, subscribe, share the podcast, leave us a review, all that good stuff. But let's get on with the show.
Let's do it.
Hi, Maggie.
Hey, Marley. How's it going?
Sorry. Hold on.
Okay.
Is that better? Can you hear me better now?
I was wondering.
Yes.
I was like,
now you're on your mic.
You sound far away.
Yeah. The mic was on the floor next to me.
I mean, we could still hear you. It just, again, sounded like you were standing at the far end of a hallway yelling at us.
And nobody likes that on a podcast. So we've got a really exciting show this week. Couple folks that I met actually initially at Rule of 3, which we talked about a little bit, but then I got to meet the other guest at Unbound. He's waving at us now, but we've got Tim and Tyler who rode a tandem at Unbound Gravel. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
I appreciate y'all inviting us on board.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, before we dig into the fun of it, and we haven't, there were quite a few tandems at Unbound, but you guys are special in a number of ways. But before we dig in, can you tell us about yourselves? Doesn't matter who goes first.
Go ahead, Tim.
Okay, so my name is Tim. I'm the blind stoker that sits off the back of the tandem, and best way I describe it is that I'm the guy that's in the back whipping up the margaritas while Tyler's doing all the heavy work, and I'm just the guy chilling out on the back. But other than that, my name is Tim, blind dude that just has had a very interesting life that has used cycling as a great way of really trying to redefine who I am, my image, and just get a good sense of getting out and creating community connections and having a lot of fun because you meet a lot of cool people on bikes, especially
Oh,
on the
yeah.
back of the bike.
That is true. And Tyler, who are you?
My name's Tyler Epstein. I live in Belton, Missouri, which is about 25 minutes south of Kansas City. I am absolutely obsessed with bikes, mountain bikes, road bikes, gravel bikes. I started riding about 11 or 12 years ago, and it has absolutely changed my life. I'm also a teacher and a football and wrestling coach, but I'm the guy who was on the front of the tandem. And when they needed a person to pilot the bike, they said, all right, first of all, who's dumb enough to say yes to this and who rides a lot? And so I think I was the natural choice, and it worked out pretty good. So
I love it.
It
And how
is.
did, oh, go ahead, Tim.
It is in that order where whenever we're looking for someone to get on the front end of a blind tandem, we always find a person that's who's suicidal enough to go and take that fun risk. And then it's like, we'll care about what you can do on the bike later. But first, let's just find someone that's has that low enough threshold of humor. And Tyler's a great guy for it.
Oh, I love it. And you both mentioned we, and I see Tim on your name. You're with the Blinded Veterans Association. Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, so BVA, we're one of the handful of congressionally chartered veteran service organizations. All our history goes back to 1945. And the cool part about the organization is trying to get blind folks out doing cool things because being blind is one of those isolating conditions. It's one of those disabilities that when you look at it, it's the one that no one wants. It's like, hack off a limb, do this to me, but take away my sight. It's always one of those harder ones to go ahead and always chop off. So anything that we do as a blind individual, the cool part of it is it immediately becomes a fun team event. We don't do anything as individuals, which makes it, in my opinion, one of the funnest disabilities to have because it's I don't go out walking and running or cycling alone. I do it with a group, with another individual that's next to me. And that just makes things so much more fun is when you rephrase what's normally an isolating condition into this opportunity of being able to have fun and get out and engage with others. That's the fun part of it.
I
It's
love it.
fantastic.
So Tyler, how did you get associated with the Blinded Veterans Association with BVA?
well, I first of all, I don't. I'm just kind of learning this as we're all learning it right now. I've ridden with Tim 5 total times.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I'm learning about this myself right now. So a guy that we both kind of know who he reached out to me. They said, well, first of all, they asked my friend Micah Gordon. They said, Micah, do you want to pilot this bike? And he said, well, I'm already racing the 100 and I'm going to try to, be competitive with that. But I know a guy named Ty who would be probably good for this. And so then he gave my name to the guy that I kind of knew. And then that guy reached out to me and here we are. And so then I said, let me think about it. That guy's name was Corey Smith. Corey hit me up on Instagram. He's like, Ty, would you be interested in piloting a tandem bike for Unbound 200 for a blind veteran? I said, holy crap, that is insane. Like, let me think about this. I had a lot of anxiety at first. I was like, that's a lot to take
Yeah.
on. I've never ridden
Yeah.
a tandem. I don't want to fail. Like, I don't want to let this guy down. And it took me about 10 minutes. And when I said yes, I was all in, like 100% in. I got in contact with Tim. We met for a few practice rides, and the rest is history, I guess.
And that's one thing, just to go and just touch upon Tyler's anxiety. It's a real thing because whenever you're talking about tandem riding, most people barely will do it with their partner. They'll
Yeah.
barely do it with their friends. They might throw a kid on the back just because kids are small and generally they're pretty repairable when they fall off. But when it comes down to putting a complete unknown. So you don't know what the person on the back, you don't know the blind person's capabilities are. Tyler had no information or stats on me or just any concept. So just to go and have Micah and Corey reach out to Tyler to ask this question the last week of April, first week of May, of, Unbound is 4 weeks away, not even to go and get told. It's like, hey, you want to do this really audacious way of adventuring through Unbound? It's like, it's no kidding. So what Tyler had to go through that processing, even though it only took him 10 minutes to say, yeah, it's still one of those things where it's like, that's a lot to have on your shoulders, which is one of the things whenever I look at my pilots and Tyler, it's like, this is never something easy. You just never go and say, yeah, sure, let's go ahead and do it. No problem. It's what am I getting into? And so it's a real thing. So Tyler was absolutely a huge hero for that one, because Unbound, this is my 5th Unbound, 6 if you want to count the group of us that got together in June 2020. That's all the locals. But otherwise, my 5th Unbound, 3rd finish, and my normal pilot, Greg Miller, he's the coach for the paracycling team for U.S. Army.
Okay.
And he got tapped to do the Warrior Challenge. That starts, normally it starts the week after Unbound, but this year it started the same day as Unbound. So he had to bow out, and that's where all this with Tyler came on board of, hey, last minute, we need someone to come on board, because, yeah, who wants to go and sign up to do 200 miles out of the blue with someone you don't know?
As it turns out.
Yep.
And that's a huge part. So,
well, I'm skipping ahead to the end, but would you ride together again?
I would 100%. I can't speak for Tim, but yeah, I would. Do it again.
I was waiting for Tyler to get back. He just did a vacation with his partner, and it's one that I was just saying, it's like, hey, let's get back together for rides or any events coming out type deal of, yeah, just give that little chance for Ty to settle back in. But no, I'd love to go ahead and do more off-road fun adventures. And I even started poking around with Ty while we were out during Unbound, just saying, hey, I need to get you on the road, because you're just an absolute beast on the front end of that bike, and what he's able to do on the tandem. So it's like, we need to get him all over the place.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, let's revisit Unbound. So a couple weeks ago on the show, I gave my recap. Because I did the 100 miles, but I want to hear about how your 200-mile went. I know you finished, spoiler alert. But take us through the day. You were staying in the dorms. Take us through, bike setup, prep, the whole deal.
Tim, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll do the general bike setup. Just because when it comes down to tandems, there's a lot of tandemisms that go into it. There's it's as much as people think that tandems is easier to ride on these types of courses, it's actually more challenging. And that's just because if we look at the conditions of Unbound, that I think at this point it's been very well documented. To go and say those were challenging times is to minimize it. But when you talk about that on the tandem, there's a reason why for the tandems, there was a total of, I'm doing a quick math in my head, 4 tandems that total finished to 200. And I think only 2 tandems that finished to 100 out of, I'm guessing there was at least twice that many tandems that were out there to begin with, or that registered at least. There's a reason we have a high failure rate because of, well, it's a bike. And so with our tandem, it's a very special. It's was loaned to us by Dr. Mike Reynolds, who him and I have been sponsoring paracyclists and disabled veterans in Unbound since 2017, as a way of just getting more cool people doing cool things here in Emporia, because Kansas gravel and the Flint Hills is absolutely beautiful riding. But so all of his equipment is, he lives there in Emporia, so he designs it specifically to handle the challenges of riding throughout Emporia and the Flint Hills. So we were on a Bingham, which is a titanium frame. It was running Di2, which gave us some funness that we'll talk about here in a moment, that gave us a single speed tandem for about 60 miles. But otherwise, beautiful bike, 29ers. It's 2.1-inch tires with the, of course, you're going to throw the inserts in it, hydraulic disc brakes, of course, just because you need as much stopping power when you are talking about a tandem team upwards of
Probably 300, almost 400 pounds, maybe.
Somewhere in that 450, 500-pound range.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm about 220.
Okay.
So I'm about 6'2", 220. So I'm a pretty big rider. I mean, I'm a Clydesdale.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, I mean, once you go and you factor our weights, is weight of the bike, and then the fact that we're carrying, like 5 pounds of water.
Yeah.
It's Unbound. You better have water. To all the folks that said about not having water at the sack stops, like, you, lesson number one for Unbound, done enough times. You better have water to get to your sack point. Don't rely on that neutral, because that neutral is not always there. So it's like, you have water to get as far as you need it, and if you don't, it's like, I'm sorry. I don't. But anyway, so.
No, I actually love that, because I'm of the same mindset. Like, I think a lot of folks, and not to digress, I think a lot of folks went to Unbound completely unprepared. And it's a beast of a race. You got to be fully self-supported.
That's the way that it came up, and that's the way that I got into it. So anyways, we'll get into that planning part. But anyway, so that's a general layout of the tandem set. I'm carrying 140 ounces of water plus enough food to get me through a week in the wilderness. All the necessary backups that we could possibly use. And Ty, what do you got on you?
I had 50 ounces of water on my back. I had two 20-ounce bottles with my nutrition on the bike. And then I had a lot of Stinger waffles. And then I saved kind of the gels and the tasty stuff towards the end of the race, because I know it's harder to eat those solids early on. But we had a lot of CO2s. We had a hand pump. We had 3 tubes. We had tons of plugs. We had Dyna plugs. We had everything we needed, and we actually gave CO2s to a few people along the way, trying to help out. But yeah, I was afraid at mile 20, after the mud section, the chain fell off, and there was something with, Tim, what was it called? The timing system?
Yes. So on the tandem, what connects the pilot with the stoker is a timing chain. And so that chain is very crucial to do that power dispersion from the front to the rear. So when that thing pops off, it's like, that's like anything else. It's like having a single bike with your chain fall off. Now it's like, it's a very important piece that, once again, is tandemisms. It's all about double the failure possibility rate.
Yeah.
So
well, ours was off around mile 20, and we were afraid it was going to keep falling off because it was really loose. The chain was loose. And I said, Tim, can I take a link out? And he's like, well, I'm not sure. He was trying to call the mechanic. So we just put back on and we kept pedaling. We got to the neutral water stop, and this guy was there looking at the tandem, and he says, hey, your pedals are out of sync. Is that how it's supposed to be? And I was like, I don't know, I guess. Tim's like, it is. And the guy's like, yeah. And I was like, seems to be fine. But it was kind of felt funny. And Tim's like, that's why it felt off. So we rode it like that until the first, I guess, SAG station, which was like mile 78. But I was like, dude, let's just keep going, because we had a few mechanicals, and I knew that time could be an issue with the cutoff. So I knew in the back of my head, like, while we can move, we've got to keep this thing moving, and we've got to move fast. So the chain stayed on till mile 78, and then they kind of sort of fixed the issue when we got to the first sag, and then we were able to roll on.
Nice. So you mentioned riding single speed for a while. Was that part of the chain issues as well, or was that a separate mechanical?
That was the DI2, the wired electronic shifting. It was so wet and so mucky. I think something messed with the wiring, and I couldn't shift. I had no shifting because as the pilot, I control the brakes and the shifting. I had no shifting. And so I was like, shoot, I can't shift. And we were in a gear to where we were just spinning. I was like, dude, we've got to get in a decent gear. So we got it to work. I don't know, Tim, did we get it to work or did we just manually put it in the gear we needed?
We did a combination of both because it's just like anything else on this type of race. It's like you do whatever you can. I don't care if you're whipping out baling wire to get stuff straightened out. That's just kind of what we had to do, where we just had a fortunate moment. We forced it to lock into a gear because the gearing on the bike is fantastic. We were able to easily pedal up all of the climbs up until that point, at which point it's like, you go in single speed mode on the Tandem and it's like, but it's
a whole different ball game.
I mean, we were single speed for, I don't know, like he said, 60 miles, 50, 60 miles. And we would have to attack the hills and take our momentum into the uphills because we tried to ride everything we could. So we didn't have to get off and walk.
Yeah.
We actually cleaned the first 5 category climbs. There was 8 and we cleaned them. No problem. But then when we had that issue, we actually had to get off and walk the bike. So.
Did you have to walk any of the mud sections?
And I love Tim's just laughing. He's just laughing about the whole thing, and I'm obsessed with it.
Okay, this might be a dumb question, but I mean, how do you do that, Tim? Do you just Tyler, do you guide the bike and Tim, you hang on to it? Is it just
not a dumb question at all? Nope. So we would come up onto the mud and we would try to ride as much as we could, but then there's that fine line between you don't want too much mud to get caked up. I mean, everybody who did this race knows if you try to ride it, you just get mud caked up in your rear triangle and the front fork. And so we would try to ride what we could, but then we would get off and walk, and I would just kind of navigate. Tim would hold the bike, and I'd say if there was a rock, for example, coming up, I'd say, Tim, pick your feet up, rock coming. Or Tim, let's work our way to the right. We're going to get off the road into the ditch and walk in the grass because there's less mud. And Tim is, Tim's blind, and it's amazing how well he does. Like, I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. Like, we were passing people while we were walking. He did, the guy's amazing. Like, he has some kind of sixth sense to where he can know where to go. I don't know. It's wild.
It's too easy because ultimately I'm just holding onto a bike for guidance, at which point it's all about feet placement. And, as a major shout out just for some of the different gear and components that we had, the Shimano gravel shoes. I forgot, Tyler, whichever ones I'm using. The
same ones. They're the RX8s. They're light. Yeah. We were able to clip in most of the time, but we have the same shoes and they're fantastic.
And they did a great job with great traction in that mud, on the rocks, on the tall grass that you're walking through it. And as I said, I've gone through a fair share of mountain bike and gravel shoes over the years. And it's these are one of the few ones that's sitting out there. We had good purchase and good grip on all of it, even when we were just walking up the normal rugged hills. But even in the mud section, it was all great. So we had to walk the main section that everyone has commented on. Mm-hmm. And then there's 2 other sections that, just because of, being on the Tandem and the time of the day and the additional rain that we had, we also walked 2 other sections that were somewhat passable. A lot of people rode over, a lot of people rode on the grass. And just for safety's sake and just to make sure that we're able to finish, so we just didn't cause it, we did walk the 2 other sections. One was coming out of that neutral, the second neutral way station, or in the 128 range-ish.
Yep.
Where 5 miles down. Yep. So we had to do that one. Which
I
was,
also walked
2 miles.
part of that section.
We try to ride part of it, but it's why risk? Adventure riding, endurance riding, you take the risk that is going to get you to finish. You don't take the risk that's going to blow you up. There's no reason to blow up on these races. It's do what you can while you can, when you can, pace yourself. And if you get good times, great. If you finish, fantastic. And that's it. That's your goal. So that's why with the muds, we did those. And what was the last one, Ty, that we did? It was after. It was shortly after the.
Yeah, it was after the very last sag. I don't know, maybe 30 miles left, about 30 miles left in the race, and it was pitch black, and it was about a 2 mile stretch, and we walked all of that, and everybody did though, you know.
Yeah. What time did you end up finishing?
We were just shy of 19 hours of total course time, so I think right before 1 a.m. Is that like 12:47 a.m. or something?
Something. I don't know.
Wow.
We finished.
Yeah.
It was just
Woo!
19 hours. Yeah.
Seriously, congratulations.
Yeah.
So I guess going back a little bit, and there's a specific thing I want to dig into here, but prep for the ride. So you said you rode together 4 times before, but as we were prepping for this, Tim, you mentioned that Zwift doesn't have very good accessibility.
So,
Can we dig into that?
oh, I'd love to. So here's one of my favorite topics to talk about, which I'm sorry, it's something that is crucial to understand why it is that within different disability communities, we see different engagement levels and different capabilities from the populations. And especially when we talk about athletics and fitness like this, where it's all about the tools that we have to train. So as a sighted person, you have the capability of being able to ride a single bike whenever you just about want to, as long as the conditions are favorable for you to ride. So you can go out, ride your bike. You want to ride your bike around the block, go for it. I mean, that's one of the great things. I'm limited to only being able to ride with another person on the front of the bike, which then means that all of my training is limited to indoor training, especially for this type of situation where that does require it requires special training in the fact that I'm in my mid 40s, so I just need to be training, period, for a couple of other reasons that's related to health conditions that I just want to make sure. So when we look at virtual training, we have our major players out there. We got Zwift, we got Wahoo and System X. And then we got TrainerRoad. Those are our three main indoor training apps. There's others. I'm not going to deny that. I mean, we got RGT. I mean, RGT is Wahoo now. We got KineMap. We got a whole bunch of others out there. But if we really boil it down, we just have three: Zwift, Wahoo, and TrainerRoad. Of those apps, TrainerRoad is the only one that's actually engaged within the blindness community to talk about how can we make the app accessible. Great. It is a good app. It's power-based training, and it's all based on those formulas of, here's your rest time, here's your time that you're hitting it. So it's all about that power. It's all power-based training. Then we got Wahoo. Wahoo does a combination with Sufferfest, either having power-based training or some of their fun stuff, or they got their RGT, which is like Zwift. Wahoo Sufferfest is mostly accessible. A blind person using a screen reader can use it, but not everything is completely workable. RGT, completely inaccessible, which brings us to where Zwift is. For a blind person like myself using a screen reader, and by screen reader, I'm using my iPad with VoiceOver. That's the built-in screen reading capabilities found on all Apple products. It completely does not work with it. However, there's some tools I use within VoiceOver that allows me to interact with it and be able to gauge. And why do I pick an app that, even though we've reached out many times, in fact, they have a disability team that's part of their research for diversity inclusion team that's looking at how can we make Zwift more usable for folks with disabilities. This is why you see hand cycles come out a year and a half ago. It's a part of that research project. They have researched us in the blindness community of asking, what do they need to do to get the app to work? How can they, make it work for us? So we keep filling it in. They keep doing a research project, and we keep saying, ultimately it comes down to the same thing, all of y'all at Zwift. It's, you just make the app accessible and we can start using it, and then we can have more conversations. But right now they add a huge barrier by not giving us that initial chance of just even making those initial menu screens accessible for us to use. And why am I harping on Zwift so much? And why don't I just use Trainer Road? I've used Trainer Road since 2017 as my primary training app, but there's only so much fun. This is the other part. Key part about fitness is it fun? Are you
Yes.
no, forget everything else. Fun.
It's the only reason I ride bikes.
Yep.
Bingo. That's it. It's so not saying Trainer Road's not fun. It's not fun.
I'm like, I think that's exactly what you just said, actually. And I don't disagree. Yeah.
Zwift, you got group rides. So I joined my buddy Greg and I joined others where, we got FaceTime going on in the background where they're looking at me on the bike and, we're just talking over face, just like anyone else is doing on Zwift. That's like, you got your Discord chat. You're in that group ride. You're in that and you're having fun. You're talking with others. I don't know if it's showing up on the camera, but I have a Wahoo kicker set up with the climb and the headwind and everything.
Yep.
And so it's like, perfect. So I get that gradient feel. I know when to shift because I used to be a cyclist before, losing my sight entirely. I used to go and have fun. It was my way of commuting to work because I couldn't drive a car. But it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I love it. You can just like feel the excitement in your voice. Well, if anybody from Zwift is listening, which I think they are, you guys should reach out to Tim.
Listen more.
We can give you his contact and you should fix this because it's not okay. Actually kind of on that topic, we're working on making the All Bodies on Bikes website accessible. There's a program called Accessibee. I don't know if you've heard of it, but about to start working with them to make sure that all of our pages are accessible and adding alt text to all of our Instagram stuff. And it does take a little bit of extra effort, but it's worth it to make sure that everybody can partake and get all the information.
I appreciate that because it's the little things in life that access to information is a right. It's not an option anymore. It's a right. So
100%.
Thank you.
Of course.
Well,
yeah.
And on that note, Tim, how can random people on the street, but cyclists specifically, because we're talking about this, how can we be more supportive when we're out on courses with riders or just interacting with y'all on the street?
So best way, number one, step one, whenever you're working with anyone with a disability, it's always asking, how can I assist you? Never assume that you know what to do to assist. And Ty and I, he did a great job with this when we were out on the course. And every time that we were riding the tandem together, where it was always more about, I'm going to do this for it. It wasn't that ever popped up. It was, what do you need? And so it's getting those conversations about, put the disabled person in that driver's seat to make those decisions. Whereas, when we're actually on Unbound, it's, Tyler, it's all up to you to get us through this because I'm just hanging out on the back. That's too much damn effort. So that's number one. Number two is, be willing to reach out within the community around you to ask, hey, if you got some bike handling skills, you got a tandem that you might have bought for your partner and you find that your partner doesn't like riding and you got that tandem laying up in the garage, just reach out within the blinds community in your local area to say, hey, anyone want to go and pop on the back of this? Because I have it sitting in the garage. I ain't doing anything. That's so, and just start trying those communications. The other way is on Facebook, there's a lot of groups. There's a blind tandem group. There's blind and sighted guides groups. Get with them and just say, hey, if you got a tandem or if you like running and want to guide a blind person, get within those groups on Facebook and just say, hey, I'm here if someone wants to try it. Because I'm interested in trying it. I'm just thinking of that person that would be joining that group that's sighted, but it's be willing to step out and try it. There's some other groups out there, United in Stride, that the Massachusetts Association of Blind, along with my buddy Richard Hunter, put together. And this pairs sighted guys with blind runners, but I'm sure there's a way of being able to use that to find other sports that people might be interested in. There's the Blind Stokers Club, and they got their Excel database that you could go ahead and just put your name on, and people look at that to see who's around them. And you got other organizations. You got Achilles International. You have Team Echelon, and you got Team red, white, and blue that all have their paracycling adventures of being able to pair folks up that want to do cool things together, like what Ty did, which that's the other way is, don't be afraid to give it a try. I'm not saying sign up and do 200 with someone you don't know. Trust me, that's a level of insanity that sorry, Ty, it is.
Respectfully insanity.
It's a cool one. Yeah.
It all worked out in the end. Like there was definitely, you guys took some risks on with this because it could have gone absolutely horribly. But it didn't. What were your favorite parts of the day from both of you? Just curious.
So I think my favorite part of the day was there was two parts of the day that was a lot of fun. Whenever the storm hit, we were riding into it, and it was absolutely beautiful. And it was hot before that, and we were both, I think, kind of hurting at that point. And that storm really cooled us off and kind of brought us both back to life. So that was really cool. We got hailed on a little bit. It was pretty heavy rain, but we just kept pedaling. And then after the last mud section, when we were just cruising, and I kind of think I knew we had it in the bag, that last 20 miles, we talked the whole day, but we really had a great conversation those last 20 miles. And I really, really enjoyed that. It was like the hard suffering's done. You're at like mile 180 and just having that great conversation with Tim. That was probably my favorite part of the whole day.
I love that. Yeah, those last 20 miles, they do fly because that part of the course is also a little bit downhill. And at least in my brain, once I make it to like mile 60 or 70, and I did the 100, I'm like, oh, I'm almost done. Like I can do 30 miles all day long. Tim, what were some highlights for you?
So that safe section that Ty started saying where we were kind of both hurting, he's very much doing an understatement. At that point, my body was just like shutting down, just barely putting out any power, to the extent that I was like, hey, Ty, this is all I'm going to be able to give for now. And like you said, part of it was just at that point in time, we were coming off the hottest part of the day. So, my body was just absolutely wrecked at that point, but then that allowed us to cool down. And Ty, just watching him and his coaching through that section to get me out of that dark cave was absolutely phenomenal. And then you had those Bob Ross happy clouds coming in, dropping all that wonderful rain and hail on us. That was beautiful to just go and experience. The other section, I'll say, as much as people give it gripes, is I absolutely love the mud sections. It was fun walking through them, navigating through them, hiking through them, because that's the unique part of being out here in those types of conditions, is the uniqueness of having that experience. It's just not hey, I'm going to hop on and just do gravel. It was, let's challenge ourselves in some other ways, and that mud was a unique way of challenging yourself that you can't train for, you can't mentally prepare for. And you just have some interesting conversations with people as you're walking by them, because you're walking, you're talking, you're just able to look at things differently and just be like, man, just think that it's like, not the I'm going to rage quit, but look at it from this is really cool. Where else can I go to have this type of experience that is totally outside of what I train in my comfort zone? And special kudos if anyone has any pictures of my little mud snowman that I built at the end of that section. Just a little small thing that was about a foot high. So
I got it on video.
Yes.
So.
I think I saw that on, maybe Ty, it was your YouTube video.
Yeah. So if you guys are interested in seeing this shit show, it's Ty's Rides on YouTube, and then it's the Unbound video. It's like a 19-minute video, but I kind of document the whole experience. So that's Ty's Rides on YouTube.
And we'll include a link to that in the show notes. You were actually, that was one of the first videos I went and watched after Unbound. I was like, ooh, does Ty have his video up? Because I love your recaps. Like, we can talk all day about this, but there's something special about like having the GoPro footage and showing the mud and like just like that little snowman. I don't know. It's just such I don't want to say you have to be there to experience it, but I think you do a really good job of conveying the experience to folks who weren't there. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Maggie.
Well.
Oh, thank you. Maggie, you got to watch it because we're going to do it. Maggie has decided that we're doing Unbound next year.
I thought somebody told me that. Oh, I'm having an episode. Well, I've got to say, because we did a recap with you, we talked with somebody else today that did Unbound. Now we're talking to you guys, and I'm just sitting here and just like in my little heart, I'm going, I am so left out. Why was I not there?
Well, next year we'll bring you there.
Next year.
I
I
know
love
what
that
help
both.
you all need.
Exactly. I love that both of y'all, like, I'm confident that at least half the people that were there would say that the worst moment was the storm. And I love that both of you, as your favorite moment from the day, are like, we loved when it stormed.
Yeah.
I was like
Fantastic.
scared. I was like scared. Lightning kind of scares me.
Right.
And I asked Tim, I was like, hey, should we shelter about the lightning? And he said, no, it's not so much the lightning I'm worried about. It's more of the muddy roads. That Tandem is a big bike. And when that rain hit, a lot of the downhills would kind of get rutted out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you caught, it happened once, we kind of slid. It was the only time that really scared me, but I caught a rut and kind of slid. So Tim's concern really wasn't the lightning as much as it was the conditions of the roads. So once I was he eased my mind about the lightning, I was kind of like, all right, let's go. Let's enjoy this. We're cooled off, so
Love
it was
it.
all good.
Yeah.
Love it.
For me, it was wild because like the rain wasn't that bad. Like it hurt a little bit, but it was more the wind. It felt like the wind was blowing sideways. I don't know if you guys got caught in that same squall. I imagine you did. But same, you just gotta, it's either cool, I'm gonna take shelter out here in the middle of nowhere, or I'm just gonna try and ride through this storm.
Right.
Well, hey, closing up, we have 2 questions that we ask all of our guests. The first one, and would love for both of you to answer this. What does your dream day look like on a bicycle?
I'll start. Man, I've had some incredible rides. To be honest, the 205 miles I spent with Tim, I know that's kind of sounds cliche, but that was like, it had everything a gravel event could possibly throw at you.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was special. It was special. Besides that, I don't know, like mountain biking and like Whistler all day, which I've never been to, or some crazy destination like that.
Come to Bentonville. It's right down the road from you.
Or mountain biking all day in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Yeah.
I've had some amazing days on the back 40 and Little Sugar. But yeah, that race was pretty special.
I'm going to echo what Ty said about Unbound this year.
Yeah.
The entire situation about Ty coming on board without any notification about what he was getting into, to the actual day itself, the conditions and everything. I mean, that truly is a remarkable experience that it just shows the awesomeness of so many people. Ty, as I was coming on, the folks that got us all connected, it's all those other pieces that makes a ride is what makes something a dream ride. And that really came through. That just showed the goodness of everyone coming together to pitch in and try their best. So, I mean, that's and this is just one of the things I would look at whenever I think of this is, for me, it's not crossing the start line or the finish line. It's getting to the start line. That is the magical part. Because once you cross the start line, yeah, have fun. You're going to enjoy it because you did it. All the hard work is in the bag, but it's that hard work that gets you there. That's the magic. And so, yeah, just everything that Ty did, the rides that we did together, the connections. If there's anything, other ways of being able to rephrase it is, yeah, sure, Ty's already saying it's like he's going to drag me down there to rule of 3 next year.
Yes.
One way or another to go ahead and have fun out there, because riding in Bentonville, it's on my I want to do list, because it has to do with exactly what they did to that area to make it that happy, friendly cycling, gravel and off-road mecca that it is. And just being able to do that, because that's just going to be really cool, especially with the party atmosphere again. It's all those pieces.
Please reach out when you come to town. I would love to introduce you to some folks and take you around and just have a good time out on bikes for sure. And so our last question, I'll let Maggie ask this one. But I guess before we get to it, I'm just really want to say thank you to you guys for coming on. And when I reached out to Ty in the dorms, because I knew that you were there. We had met at Rule of Three. He's like, yeah, come over and say hi. And it was just like college. I walked across the dorm in like my pajamas just to say hi the night before the race. And I didn't know that you were riding a tandem with Tim. And I was like, oh, we've got to tell this story. So really just you're cracking up over there. What's going on, Tim?
Oh, it's just the absolute fun imagery of just popping on by in the pajamas.
Yeah,
It's like college experience. It's like it's that's the fun part of the tours is that cool people you get to meet. So
exactly. Yeah, and then learn about stories like this and then bring you on the podcast. So, thanks for being willing to share your story.
Yeah, of course.
And now our
Fantastic.
last question.
Our last question. We all get to talk bikes a lot. If you guys had the opportunity to talk about something else you're really passionate about, what would that thing be? What do you wish more people asked you about?
The first thing, man, this is not about bikes. I think it's about, mental health. I think mental health. With cycling, if you're anxious or if you've got something going on, go for a bike ride and it will help you. I think there's so many people. I work with high school kids. I'm a high school teacher, and seeing these kids struggle with anxiety and depression and all of these things. And we take them outside for a PE break. I work at the alternative school, and just seeing them outside playing basketball or being outside. We've got a cat that comes up and visits us every day, and seeing the cat and getting these kids moving when we come back into the classroom. I mean, that you can see the change.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, if it's not biking, it's running, it's walking, it's whatever you do, get outside and do something. And it can really help. I think more so than any kind of medication, even, just being active. So if I'm feeling crappy, I go for a bike ride and instantly feel better, even if it's a short one.
Yeah.
Yep. Movement is
Absolutely.
medicine. Sometimes for me, it's hard to convince myself to actually get outside. But once I do, you're 100%.
Then I go and I'm like, why did it take me so long to do this?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Tim, what about you? What's something that you are super passionate about that you wish you got to talk about more?
You let me go down a couple of my rabbit holes. I do appreciate it. With being able to talk about accessibility for a couple of moments but I'll echo exactly what Ty is saying, that you guys also both echoed, is it's just the usage of connecting with nature, getting outside as a therapeutic tool to really help you regain focus, to whether it's just a quick break or something a little bit longer to help you get reconnected. There's a great concept called forest bathing that's been well documented and researched within the literature, talking about just the effects of this. And it's one that I don't think we could emphasize enough. It's just the need to, within our communities, find a way of being able to help people tap into these resources, whether it's your local park, even that local walking trail that folks have, of just being able to do something and just be able to keep suggesting that. Because whenever you're doing those things, oftentimes, like in Ty's situation, he's not doing it as an individual with his high school students. They're doing it as a group that brings in that community and social aspect to this. With I said, with tandem biking, the best part is your team. So you get to bring that together, and it's just all that and how that comes together to really help it out. It's just a very, very important aspect. So being able to talk about the role of sport and recreation within not just mental health services, but just life, and the role that it can do for us is awesome.
Love it. All right. I think that's a wrap, you guys. Thank you again. And what's the next race on your calendars?
For me, I'm kind of chilling right now. I'm gonna do some mountain biking. I might go out to Moab in Colorado here in a couple weeks, and really just hanging out. I'll kind of start doing more races in the fall, but just kind of chilling right now.
Very cool. Anything on your schedule, Tim?
There we go. Blind guys and our forgetting to unmute ourselves if we're talking.
It's not just blind guys, it's all of us.
Yes, for sure.
So the next one I got is technically the registration has not opened yet, but the U.S. Cycling National Gravel Championships. That one, September 9th, is definitely on my calendar. There's going to be a para classification that I'm just going to be all gung-ho once that gets posted, as I don't care. I'm going to find some way of getting out to that race. I'm just going to be interested to see what they do for the paired categories, if they're going to allow us to race the full race. That's like 121, 131 miles. Or are they going to shortchange us and put us down at like a 100-kilometer race? So more to come on that one when those details are announced. But yeah, U.S. Cycling's National Gravel Champions. I've been doing this paracycling with gravel for since 2016 now. So it's
awesome.
Get to celebrate it.
Yes. Well, I hope you get to do the full course, because that's what is only fair. And you're going to kick butt. So thanks again for joining the podcast, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you both.
You are welcome.
This is an All Bodies on Bikes podcast powered by Feisty Media. The show is produced by Maggie and Marley and edited by the team at Feisty Media. Thanks for listening.